Oh, it's all happening. Okay. So here's the updates that we can give you because there's a new one, folks. Oh, we got a name. According to the Twitter account of Shams Charania, the Denver Nuggets have traded Michael Porter Jr. and their 2032 first to Brooklyn for Cam Johnson. So they're swapping out small forward for small forward. Cam Johnson is your new starting small forward, Andy. And we've got a new sixth man, according to a tweet that just came across from, what's his name, Andy?
Shams Charania.
Yes, free agent.
Charania.
Bruce Brown has agreed to a one-year deal with the Denver Nuggets, sources telling ESPN. Come on,
the cowboy
Spring.
hat is on. The buckle is back.
Yeah! Celebrate this thing. That's right. Bruce Brown back. Now is your sixth man. Is that enough?
Is Brucey B going anywhere? Hell no.
Kind of did, but he's back.
Yeah, he's back. He's back. It took a minute, but now he's back. Brucey B is back. Cam Johnson is a Nugget. Chris Dempsey joins us right now. Demps, it's coming fast. It's coming furious. Who's hot? Who's heavy? Your initial reaction right now.
Well, look, I think it's overall obviously good. I mean, you added to your depth with Bruce Brown, with a player that can come in and do the job because he did the job when you won the championship. And then what you did with the Cam Johnson, Michael Porter Jr. trade is you get a player backing Cam Johnson who is a similar player, obviously can shoot the three, can space the court, really good cutter in terms of his movement around, which would obviously be around Nikola Jokic. So he'll benefit a lot from that. So it's kind of a seamless fit from that standpoint when you're talking about entering a player offensively into your system, and then defensively, obviously a better defender than what Michael Porter Jr. Has been over the course of his career. So you're upgrading there. And then I think the most important thing for the Nuggets is that they're, Cam Johnson is making considerably less than Michael Porter Jr. And obviously you have to keep contracts in a range for it to be tradable, but the Nuggets are still getting a financial relief from this one as well. So, I think if you're the Nuggets, you have to be very pleased with, your ability to replace a very good offensive player with another similar offensive player, upgrade your defense, and slash your payroll.
All right. How are you feeling about now? Look, you were a guy. You and Nate both have tried to take on those. It's almost like that little meme with the swords all that pointed at the one guy. When everybody gets upset about MPJ or the way that he was playing, you two would always try to bring some reason back to the discussion. And so I did find it interesting when Nate said, "Hey, what's going on? How do you feel?" There was a hesitation. Are you a little disappointed to see MPJ go, or how are you feeling there, Chris?
You know what? I understand. I understand. Like the Nuggets were even if you want to go back to some of the friction that was going on inside of the organization prior to the firings of Michael Malone and Calvin Booth, the finances got really muddy for the Nuggets in a way that really hamstrung how they could do business. And then obviously affected, relationships within that organization. And, they have been pretty clear on the fact that, they're, guys that are not leaving the organization are Nikola Jokic, are Jamal Murray, are Aaron Gordon, who they just extended as well. I believe Jamal Murray's contract extension kicks in starting this coming season. So these are really big dollar players and core players that they didn't want to let go. And so from the standpoint of, of a tradable contract, it would have been Michael Porter Jr.'s. His is, I think he's down to his last 2 years on his current deal. And obviously is a very productive player. He goes to Brooklyn, and the head coach used to be an assistant coach here in Denver. Yeah. So he's very well-versed on what Michael Porter Jr. can do on the basketball court. So, the more that you dive underneath the layers of this, you understand it, and I understand it. I mean, look, I will die on the hill and have died because now Michael Porter is gone. But of a player that was, I think, was more productive, and as he continued on in his career, a lot more versatile than I thought he got credit for. And I think we'll see more of that in Brooklyn. He's going to get the ball a lot in Brooklyn and be able to probably have a lot higher usage, a lot more usage. And I think with that, it will come a lot of big scoring. But I think for both teams, this is a really good trade.
All right, real quick, because I asked Nate this earlier, and obviously, like I said, you guys on the same side of the aisle of this thing. Do you think he became ultimately what you thought? Did he develop into all the potential that was talked about when he was drafted? Do you think?
I don't think he had the opportunity to do that. Is my answer to that. I think given the opportunity that he had, he grew a lot. I mean, if you look at the stats between these two players, they're really similar. It's 18 points per game. It's Michael Porter Jr. averaged more rebounds than Cam Johnson. Shot a better percentage from the field and from the 3-point line, or I think exactly the same, right around from the 3-point line. So I think what people got wrapped up in was two things. One, that Michael Porter Jr. really got typecast as a 3-point shooter only, and so then when he would have some wild swings in how those 3-pointers were going in or not, it was, rubbing people the wrong way. And then obviously the big contract number that went along with that, that Tim Connelly signed him to, try to get out ahead of that early, was a big number. And I think if you look at the contracts, his per year average, and then look at the players around him who average the same, and then look at the usage rate of those players versus the usage rate of Michael Porter Jr., you'll see what I'm talking about. And he was not afforded the max contract player opportunity, but he carried a number that certainly had people looking at that with a little bit of a side eye.
Okay, so again, the breaking news right now. Michael Porter has been traded to the Brooklyn Nets along with a future first in exchange for Cam Johnson. That's all the particulars we know on the deal at this time. One other fun little note. We'll get to it in just a moment with Dems before a Cam Johnson question. Bruce Brown has been signed by the Denver Nuggets on a 1-year deal. Hell yes. Amazing. Debs, back to Cam Johnson really quickly. Brooklyn was not a good team last year, and Cam Johnson had to facilitate a lot. He's not going to be asked to do any of that in this Denver offense. You alluded to it earlier. He's going to space the floor, but he's going to now play basketball with Nikola Jokic. Knowing Cam Johnson's game as you do, how is the onboarding process going to be there with him becoming a Jokic guy? What's his ceiling as a Jokic guy?
Yeah, so I think Cam, I think I would look for similar numbers from him. Well, I think I might knock off a couple of points per game just because he's coming to a situation that has more people handling and scoring and shooting than did the Brooklyn Nets, especially this past season. They had a lot of injuries. Yeah. One of them was to Cam Thomas, who would have been their leading scorer. So I would expect that 18 points per game is not what he's going to average, but it probably should be around 15, 16 points per game. I mean, he's a very productive player, and he's going to get opportunities. I mean, one of the reasons Bruce Brown is back is because he got opportunities around the best player in the world, and I think Nuggets fans will be very pleasantly surprised at just how seamless I think this will go, because Cam isn't the kind of guy that demands a ton of the basketball. He doesn't really even speak in those terms. And so, he just kind of is out there doing whatever the offense is he is asked to do within the offense. So I think because of that, you're not going to get you're not getting the guy that's going to take a bunch of bad shots, play outside the structure of the offense. You're not going to get any of those things. You're going to get all the good stuff. And I think for him, the shots will never come easier than they will with the Nuggets. And he did a good job in a situation last year where a lot of the defenses were trying to make sure he didn't score. So I think it's going to be, quite honestly, seamless. And I think we'll see that within that first month of the season.
Demps, I don't know if there is a bigger kind of almost legend in Denver sports that played a year here than Bruce Brown. But he really did, and yet he is also a legend in these parts. Brucey B is back. He is your sixth man. We know everything he can do. We know about his handles. We know about his scoring. It's been an interesting odyssey for Bruce Brown since he left Denver, but he now returns here. Where should we set our expectations for Brucey B?
Right back where they started.
Hell yeah.
I mean, right where they left off, I should say. Because what he proved to be was just a total Swiss Army knife. And defensively, he gave them a lot more. The area that really improved the most today for the Nuggets was their defense. I mean, that is, I am a big believer in the defensive schemes in any level of basketball don't matter near as much as the players carrying them out. And what Bruce Brown, and when he was here the first time, it was Bruce Brown and Christian Brown, and then you had Aaron Gordon, and you had a lot of guys who were in KCP, and you had a lot of guys who were good defensive players raising the defensive profile of this basketball team. And I think today what they have done, especially when these things start becoming official here in a few days, is they have improved it with the way that you have to, with actual defensive players. And so Cam Johnson is going to come in as an actual defensive player, and Bruce Brown comes in as an actual defensive player. Yeah. And when you look across the landscape of the Western Conference, well, you had better have a bunch of people who can guard some wings, because these teams are loading up. We see what the Houston Rockets are doing. I just see the D'Angelo Russell's going to the Dallas Mavericks, and so they've got a bunch of guys that can run and jump and shoot the basketball, and obviously OKC. So you look, if you're in the Western Conference, you have to be able to guard, and the Nuggets improved markedly in that area today.
Dems, man, great stuff. Thanks for jumping on short notice. We appreciate it.
All right, guys, we'll talk to you.
All right, that's our buddy Chris Dempsey of Altitude jumping aboard right there. Nuggets trading MPJ and a unprotected 2032 first to Brooklyn for Cam Johnson. They have also signed Bruce Brown, according to Shams, to a one-year deal. So Bruce Brown is back. That last key that Dems talked about right there, this team got better defensively, and they got tougher. There is no doubt about that. I mean, one of the things you got to remember with Cam Johnson is again, like, I don't know if his ceiling as a shooter – actually, I know this. His ceiling as a shooter is not as high as Michael Porter's. But Cam Johnson now gets to show up here and play with Nikola Jokic, okay? Like, Aaron Gordon made it look seamless, did he not? Showing up here and stepping on the floor and immediately being awesome with Jokic. And he had to do it mid-season. He just had to jump in and make it happen. This is big time that Cam Johnson's going to get a chance to go through camp in a preseason and all of that. All right, we need to we got questions on the financial particulars and everything. Joining us right now, he is on Twitter at the Stats Squatch. Jake Coyne, whose Nuggets offseason guide is just an absolute Bible. Jake, welcome to the show. How you doing, man?
Doing very well, guys. I'm happy to join you, and I'm surprised we got such big news here so quick.
Yeah, very quickly. Jake, explain to us the financial particulars of how this trade can work and does work. Porter to Brooklyn for Cam Johnson.
Yeah, so how it can work is basically under this new CBA, trading is pretty restrictive for a team like Denver, but when you're a team like Brooklyn who has cap space, you could be a lot more flexible. And so Brooklyn is actually taking on, about $15 million more in this deal. And they're able to do that because they're so far below the salary cap. And so that's really the only way Denver could have done this deal. And Brooklyn's one of the few teams that could have done it with Denver.
So there's not the Nuggets don't have, or Brooklyn doesn't have to include any other financial pieces, like this deal works as is.
Yep, it does work as is, and that's one of the nice things about having a lot of cap space is that you can take on a ton of money, right? And so, I mean, if Brooklyn wanted to, they could have traded for, a $25 million player without sending anybody out. So that's just kind of one of the benefits of being a cap space team.
So what does this now do for Denver as far as their cap situation? Does this get them? I think I saw in your tweet you said this gets them out of that apron now. This puts them in a better chance. They have a more flexibility with the mid-level exception.
Yeah, that's correct. So Denver, all in all, is shaving off about $14 million in this deal when you include incentives, which you do have to factor in. And so what that does is it gets the Nuggets below something called the first tax apron. And teams that are below that and stay below that can use a bigger mid-level exception up to about $14 million. Now, Denver's not so far below it where I think they can use all of that, but they should be able to use more than what they had prior to this trade, which was about $5.7 million. They might not be able to use that full 14.1, but if they wanted to give a guy $10 million, I think they could do that and still field a competitive roster.
But is that Bruce Brown? Do we know? Could that be the Bruce Brown move then, Jake? Or
yeah, I think it could be. I haven't seen any for sure reporting on it. The interesting thing is when it was reported, there wasn't a dollar amount with it, and so the Nuggets might still be figuring out some things. You know, they might be looking at moving a Dario Saric, for example, and if they do, that might affect the number they're able to give Bruce, things like that. So it is interesting. We didn't get a for sure number there, but I do think that could be Bruce's deal. But it could be a minimum contract. That is a possibility, but I do think he probably gets a little bit more than that.
Jake, God bless you, by the way. Your off-season preview, like I read the entire thing the day that it came out. Your willingness to wade into these waters and learn this crap so idiots like me don't have to and just get confused and give it all out wrong is greatly appreciated. So thank you for doing all of that work. Before we let you go, Jake, there is a basketball component to all of this. And when you wrote about Cam Johnson in your preview, you did talk about him being a very good one-for-one replacement for Michael Porter. Give us your breakdown why you like him in Denver's lineup.
Yeah, so I think with Cam Johnson, if you're not talking about a star player like a Kevin Durant or something, I think it would be difficult to come up with a better replacement for what Michael Porter Jr. can do than Cam Johnson. Now, he's not the shooter that Michael Porter is.
Sure.
And he's not the rebounder that Michael Porter is. So Denver might lose a little bit in those aspects, but he's a lot more well-rounded. He can do a lot of different things. I would call him average to slightly above average defender. He's going to hold up his own on that end of the floor, and he's not going to hurt you shooting. So I did say he's not as good as Michael Porter, but he's not going to hurt you. Opposing teams aren't going to just leave him open, and he's a very high IQ guy, and I think Jokic is going to really enjoy playing with him. I think he'll fit in really seamlessly, and I think it'll happen really quick. You know, I don't think this will take him 6 months to figure out how to play next to Jokic. I think this will be a quick, easy fit, and I think Denver did a really good job with this deal.
Jake, man, awesome stuff. Thank you for jumping on with us on short notice. We appreciate it, and enjoy free agency. It's like Christmas for you, man.
It is, and I was happy to get some big news right away, and hope you guys enjoy the rest of this week as well.
All right, Jake Coyne at the Stat Squatch on Twitter, joining us right there, giving us the particulars. So again, this is why we talk to people like Jake, because idiots like us that don't understand the NBA CBA.
Yeah. I'm glad like you said, I'm glad he wants to wade into that. You have a mind for numbers and it numbs you. That tells me how difficult all this is.
There's too many exceptions. There's
right.
too many.
And there's this and the trigger clause and this leads to that.
And because a first apron team is trading with a no apron team,
it doesn't have to match.
The salaries then don't have to match, so Denver can create that much more cap space. So the salary particulars, and Cam Johnson does have, and Jake mentioned this, he has a heavily incentivized contract. So that's something you have to factor in if Cam Johnson hits it. And I bet if you're Cam Johnson, you're thinking, cha-ching, I get to play with Nikola Jokic right now. So something to think about. But his cap hit as of right now, or at least what it was going to be for Brooklyn, $21.1 million. Okay? Which is substantially less than Michael Porter's $38.3. All right? You include that 2032 first. F them picks, baby. and you bring in Cam Johnson right now, do you give away something on the rebounding? Sure. You get a player like Jake talked about right there that is essentially a vastly better defender and generally not as good of a shooter because Michael Porter's world class, okay? But you're not losing much, if anything, in Cam Johnson. He's got to be able to stay healthy. He's had those issues throughout his career, but a smart player and the kind of guy that you think pairs extremely well with Nikola Jokic. Oh, by the way, he's now your starting small forward, and your backup backcourt now includes Bruce Brown.
Yes. So people are asking, and it's a great question. It's a fair text. A lot of texts of what does this do? We're going to have to wait and see when the numbers are all added up.
Yeah.
I am curious to know, as Jake just explained, their mid-level exception did go up because they got out of the first apron that we've been hearing way too much about. You know what? I hope the apron doesn't come back, frankly. I'm sick of hearing about the apron. But
they'll be back in the first apron, I would guess.
Yeah, I'm assuming that. Yes, they've got a little bit more money to spend, but I imagine the Bruce Brown signing is going to suck up a lot of what they had.
I believe, Andy, the Nuggets view the second apron as a
livable device,
as a hard cap. The first apron they'll do.
Right.
Second apron, they're not touching it.
Obviously, with what was said last week, they're not going there.
Yeah.
So we got to wait and see how the numbers all shake out, and ultimately we'll get there. But the bottom line is most Nuggets fans wanted Bruce Brown back. I think you and I never got a chance to talk about it, but I didn't really see a world where Bruce Brown was going to end up taking $6 million to come back here. I just didn't think that was realistic.
Kind of the market he's fallen into. Yeah.
Well, he might have, but I won't be shocked if he did get a little bit more money out of the deal. And look, if
we
not,
shall see.
If we do find out he took a lesser contract, remember the cap goes up next year.
Yep.
So there becomes a guy that maybe you could. And maybe you do with Cam Johnson or whoever else you sign, you could say, sign here now. We'll give you more money next year when the cap goes up. But you know what? The reality is we had a lot of people saying, are they going to do everything today? They did it.
This is the Craigman and Lindahl Show. We're with you until 6. Berto and Springer are going to keep this thing rolling, starting up at 6 o'clock.
So nobody go anywhere.
With the Blitz. So they're going to be talking about nothing but this trade tonight. I assure you of that. MPJ off to Brooklyn. Cam Johnson is a Nugget. And Denver signs Bruce Brown. Huge. By the way, Andy, you know what this trade is? It's a blockbuster.
Boom!
It's a blockbuster.
It busted the block, baby.
The block has been busted, and the core 4 is now officially done for.
Our guy Eli didn't even get his jerseys.
Well, he's still going to get it.
Hey, they want a ring together.
Hey.
These 4 all have a ring.
I kid you not. Eli just texted in. Now I'll let Andy wear the MPJ jersey.
Yeah. You know what, Eli? That was the one I was most worried about.
Uh-huh.
That is a slender jersey.
Yes.
The only one I really got a shot at is Jokic.
By the way, Andy, yesterday was MPJ's birthday.
Well,
hey, he gets to start his 29th year on planet Earth as a Brooklyn
I
Net.
know you don't think so. I think this is a good chance for him. I think every player that makes a lot of money that fans know about, well, okay, mentally. How about I put it mentally? You're right. Nobody wants to probably leave him playing Nikola Jokic.
Right.
Because of the kind of player that he is. But as far as the heat on that guy, from maybe he was kind of like, you know what's funny? They went to the same school. He had a little Drew Lock to him. Half the fans loved him. Half the fans despised the money he was making. Just like a lot of other athletes in this town. If he had not gotten that contract and just did what he did, if he was making half of that money, do you think people would have felt differently about him?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
he was, it was, and I say it all the time, Andy, fair or not, you're measured against your contract. That's pro sports. You're measured against your draft status. You're measured against your contract.
But people love you until you get paid. And then once you get paid, it happened to Demaryius Thomas. It happened to Von Miller. Once you get paid, they don't think you're living up to it.
He's, you know what, man? Like Michael Porter Jr. is a Nuggets legend. He always will be. He was again core 4 of a team that won an NBA championship. Those playoffs were so funny because he had rounds where he was absolutely fantastic, and he had other rounds, the finals, where he was awful, and he was the first one to admit it. By the way, according to multiple sources, the Bruce Brown deal is a veteran's minimum.
All right, so they've got a lot of money then with the mid-level exception to play with.
Nuggets aren't done, baby. This is, and again, keep it here on Altitude Sports Radio. Berto and Springer are going to have the blitz for you coming up. This is going to be really good. They're going to be following all this information. Nuggets aren't done. They're going to get somebody else.
Okay, you think they're done trading?
Probably. You know what, though?
They got guys. They got a few more guys. Now, all of a sudden, do you have to keep Strother?
If you
Does
wanted-
everything have to linchpin on Strother?
I was gonna
do you
say-
have to pay Christian Brown?
If you wanted to move Peyton Watson or a Strother for a Cam Whitmore, you can do so. You can absolutely do so. Now, if that's the kind of deal, you could still pay a Luke Kennard to come here and play in Denver, or you could be shopping perhaps in a different aisle. We've been rolling. Great job, everybody. Thanks again to Chris Dempsey. Thanks again to Jay Coyne. Good guest to get on right away. We'll take a break. We'll come back. We'll keep breaking it down. Cam Johnson is a Nugget. Bruce Brown is back, and Michael Porter is off to Brooklyn. So keep it here.